This is the soul behind the curtain, a safe space where you don't have to perform, where we explore what's real beneath the patterns, beneath the roles, beneath the masks, beneath who you've been programmed to be. I'm Lulu, and here we shed the layers and learn to accept our truth. Imagine someone followed you everywhere, every single day. They listened to every sentence you said about yourself. Now imagine that person's only job was to build a robot based entirely on your identity, using nothing but the sentences you say about yourself every single day. They don't get to look at your achievements. They don't get to look at your childhood. They don't get to interview your friends or your family. All they have are your words. The words that say, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I'm always unlucky. I always mess things up. Nobody really loves me. What kind of robot would they build? Would it believe in itself? Would it take risks? Would it expect love? Or would it simply behave according to the identity you programmed into it? The truth is, someone has been listening all along, and that someone is you. And whether you realize it or not, your mind is always paying attention to the story you repeatedly tell it. One of the most common things you'll hear in psychology and self development is this very interesting phrasing: the subconscious mind does not understand jokes. While I completely agree with the sentence, I don't believe it's literally true. We do laugh. We understand the concept of sarcasm. We understand irony. But I think there's a deeper truth hidden inside that sentence, especially when those words carry emotion and intention. Your mind pays attention to repetition, and everything you say on repeat gets stored in the parts of your brain that you don't understand. Your inner voice was not born with you. Let me ask you something. Where do you think your inner voice comes from? The inner voice is a collection of the things that you heard about yourself from your parents and your teachers, from your bullies, from your culture and your trauma, from your religion and your success and your failure. Somewhere along the way, someone described you, and eventually, you started describing yourself in the same exact way. Automatic thoughts are part of a spiral, or a loop, let's say. They come from a cause and effect, starting with something we refer to as core beliefs. In cognitive behavioral psychology, or cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, a core belief is an individual's most fundamental, deeply held assumption about themselves, others, and the world. They function as an unconscious lens through which all life experiences are filtered. Automatic thoughts are the first interpretations your mind produces without asking your permission. These thoughts operate as knee jerk mental shortcuts. They are often subjective and can be inaccurate. They happen so quickly that most of us mistake them for facts. In psychology, we call these automatic thoughts. So you make one mistake. Automatically, I'm a failure. Someone doesn't reply to my message. Automatically, they must hate me. You receive criticism. Automatically, I'm never good enough. These thoughts are automatic because they've been rehearsed so many times that your brain no longer questions them. They're simply familiar. The second most substantial connection is our neural pathways. A neural pathway is a series of connected neurons that transmits electrical and chemical signals from one region of the nervous system to another. Self talk actively rewires the brain through neuroplasticity. When you speak to yourself, your brain treats the internal voice as a physical reality. Every thought we repeatedly think strengthens a pathway inside the brain. Imagine walking through a forest. The first time you walk through it, it's difficult. But if you walk the exact same path every day for years, eventually a trail forms. The grass disappears, the trees move aside, the path becomes effortless. Your brain works in a very similar way. Every repeated thought becomes easier to think the next time. That's why changing your inner dialogue feels uncomfortable. You're not changing your words, you're building a completely new road. The next outcome is confirmation bias. Here, something incredible begins to happen. Your brain starts looking for evidence that proves your existing beliefs are true. This is called confirmation bias. So if I believe I'm unlucky, I'll start remembering every bad thing that happened to me. If I believe nobody appreciates me, I'll only notice the ignored messages while overlooking every act of kindness. The brain isn't trying to deceive us, it's trying to remain consistent with the identity we've already given it. Confirmation bias traps you in negative thinking by acting as a filter. It forces your brain to seek out, interpret, and remember experiences that validate your worst beliefs while ignoring contradictory evidence. This creates a self fulfilling loop that reinforces anxiety, poor decisions, and a skewed perception of reality. Breaking free from this cycle requires active, intentional cognitive reframing. So, the next time you are having a thought about yourself, like I always mess up, list evidence that supports this and refutes this. Consciously look for positive details in a situation where you would normally only see the negative. Ask yourself, what would I tell a close friend who is in this exact same situation? Acknowledge that familiar beliefs often feel safer than stepping into uncertainty. So catch yourself when you say, I knew this would happen. Closely related to this is something called expectancy effects. What we expect often changes how we behave long before the outcome arrives. If I walk into a job interview convinced that I'm going to fail, I'm going to be extremely anxious. I'm going to speak differently. I will carry myself differently. I will hesitate more. I'll avoid eye contact. And ironically, my expectations begin influencing the very outcome I feared. The opposite is also true. When we genuinely believe growth is possible, we become more willing to take opportunities we would have previously avoided. The funny thing is, this doesn't just apply to us on an individual level. This also plays on what we expect from the universe. So, there's a story I share with lots of my clients when we are talking about expectations. And I always tell them about this idea. Imagine that you wake up and you're dressed to the nines and you're feeling really good about the way that you look. You go and you make your coffee, and suddenly the coffee spills and it's all over your clothes. You have two options here. The first option, which a lot of people take, is negative self talk as a start. I'm so stupid. How did I spill this coffee on myself? Huh. It's already clear that today is going to be the worst day of my life. Like people usually exaggerate in these situations. The thing is, you're going to have to go change your clothes anyway, right? In the first scenario, you do get upset. You change your clothes, you leave your house, and suddenly there's traffic. You reach work late. You're late to your meeting. Your boss gets angry with you and starts yelling at you. And then you go home and you have the biggest fight with your partner. Or maybe you even get in an accident. Everything you have expected about this day to happen will happen. Because when you woke up today and you spilled the coffee on your clothes, you said to yourself, this is going to be the worst day ever, even if you didn't say it explicitly. On the other hand, this is the way that I try to get people to think or reconstruct the way that they think, because it did take me a lot of time to also learn this method. It's that I spilled the coffee on myself. That's true. I felt really good about myself today. I dressed really well. I was ready for my meeting and I spilled my coffee. That's something that has already happened. There's nothing that I can do in the next 5 minutes to rewind and go back in time and not spill the coffee on myself. Instead, I'm going to go and change my clothes anyway. And then I'm gonna say, for example, Alhamdulillah, this must have happened for a reason. Maybe if I went out at the time that I was supposed to go out in, I was gonna get in an accident or something really bad was gonna happen to me. Instead of framing the idea as something horrible, look at it the way that a parent would look at a child when they make a mistake, or should look at a child when they make a mistake. If a child breaks a plate, then they broke the plate. A healthy way to look at it is to just clean the area that the child broke the plate in and make sure that they didn't harm themselves. That's it. We tend to be very cruel towards ourselves when bad things happen, but these things happen for a reason. So, in both cases, you were late. In both cases, you had to change your clothes. So, why not look at it in a positive way? Why not look at it in a way that favors you? In a way that you believe that the universe loves you, that Allah loves you, and doesn't want you to be harmed. A small spill of coffee on your favorite outfit versus you getting in a very horrible accident. What would you prefer? Now, this leads us to one of my favorite psychological concepts, the self fulfilling prophecy. A belief becomes a behavior, and the behavior creates an outcome, and the outcome reinforces the original belief. Nobody likes me, so I withdraw. People interact with me less. I end up feeling lonely. Then I say, see, I knew nobody liked me. And here, the prophecy fulfills itself, not because it was destined, but because my belief quietly shaped my actions. A self fulfilling prophecy occurs when a false belief or expectation causes a person to act in a way that kind of make that belief come true. The psychological cycle turns a predicted outcome into reality. So, in relationships, a person convinced that their partner will eventually leave them becomes overly anxious, suspicious, and controlling. This suffocating behavior pushes the partner away. And eventually, this ends the relationship and it proves the initial but originally false fear true. On the other hand, a positive self fulfilling prophecy happens when expecting a successful outcome changes your behavior in a way that makes that success a reality. So, by anticipating the best, you unconsciously take actions that align with that belief, creating a powerful cycle of achievement and growth. So, let's say that you predict you will earn a promotion. Operating with this belief, you are proactively taking on leadership tasks at the office. You ask your manager for feedback on how to improve. Your extra effort, increased visibility, and positive attitude impress your boss, and ultimately it results in the promotion you anticipated. The same thing works with the placebo effect. So let's say that your doctor prescribed a simple vitamin, but he tells you that it is a potent treatment for your symptoms. Trusting this prediction, your mind relaxes, your body's stress response decreases, and your physical symptoms actually improve. So here, the mind is creating a powerful connection or an outcome or reality based on the positive things that it's being told, and vice versa. In Islam, we often hear the phrase حسن الظن بالله, which translates to having good expectations of Allah. It means trusting His wisdom even when we don't understand His plan. It means trusting His unfailing mercy and unwavering generosity, especially when facing difficulties or uncertainty. Yet, I sometimes wonder, how often do we practice this, having good expectations of Allah, while living with the worst expectations of ourselves? So we trust that Allah is capable of miracles, yet we constantly tell ourselves that I'm never gonna change, I'm never gonna heal, I will always be this way. If Allah created you with the capacity to grow, why do you keep speaking to yourself as though your story has already been written? حسن الظن isn't simply optimism, it's trust. It's trust in Allah, trust in the process, and perhaps learning to trust that the person Allah created you to become is still waiting beneath all that fear. Trusting that every decree is ultimately for your benefit, which eradicates your anxiety and despair, and it allows you to navigate life's storms with grace and patience. When you approach Allah expecting a favorable response and resolution, your worship becomes more sincere and fulfilling. Your expectations of Allah in this world, knowing that Allah's mercy is all encompassing, it shifts your focus from pain of your current situation to the hope of future relief. When people try to comprehend or measure Allah's divine attributes, they only see it the way humans can. The ability that Allah has is not the same ability that humans do. Humans run into limitations. Human minds are finite. They cannot fully grasp the true nature of the Absolute, while divine power operates entirely beyond human constraints and physical laws. The human capacity to comprehend is restricted to what is relative and exists in the physical world. This conclusion leads to people viewing Allah's powers as they view people's powers. And it doesn't happen on a conscious level, it happens because of our limited beliefs. Which is why we need to constantly remind ourselves that Allah's powers are limitless. Our expectations should be limitless in return. And here's why you should ask for too much. Asking for big, seemingly impossible things does not offend Allah. Instead, it pleases Him because it demonstrates that you know He is the ultimate provider. It shows reliance on Allah. Allah loves to give. Allah is the most generous and loves to grant requests. There is no limit to what He can give. So holding back in your praise is not necessary. When you ask for more, you acknowledge that nothing is too large or too big for His power. Nothing is too small for His care. Even Islam removes the barrier of feeling embarrassed to ask for worldly things. Human beings naturally grow irritated when constantly asked for favors, but Allah is the exact opposite. He loves to be asked and views the act of asking as a profound form of worship. Do not self filter, ask for it. Whether it's a massive career, a promotion, a beautiful home, emotional healing, a G Wagon. Ask for the penthouse duplex. Ask to be a millionaire. Actually, ask to be a billionaire. And when you ask, always anchor your big worldly requests to the ultimate ask, the closeness to Allah and a place in Firdaus al-A'la. Ask for the peak. Do not just ask to get by. Ask for wealth that allows you to give massive charity, make your family comfortable, build communities, relieve others of debts. Prophet Sulaiman asked for a kingdom so magnificent that no one after him would ever match it. Allah did not rebuke him, He granted it. Because Prophet Sulaiman asked from a place of recognizing Allah's absolute divine power. The only place that I encourage being delusional in is with Allah. When you pray and make dua, pray for cosmic things. Because when you expect the best, you'll get the best. In the self development world, many people refer to something called the law of assumption. The basic idea is that the assumptions we consistently hold about ourselves and about life begin shaping the reality we experience. Whether you view that spiritually, psychologically, or somewhere in between, it's worth reflecting on. If every morning I assume today will be terrible, I begin looking for proof. Every inconvenience becomes confirmation. Every delay becomes evidence. Every mistake becomes another reason to believe I was right all along. But if I assume that perhaps today holds goodness I simply cannot see yet, my attention shifts. I begin to become more open, to receive, to be more patient, to be more resilient. For a believer, the mechanics of the law of assumption align perfectly with how Allah commands us to think and pray. The core difference is the source of power. While secular philosophy credits the human imagination, Islam credits the limitless power of Allah, responding to your absolute faith. I am as my servant expects me to be. This is the ultimate Islamic parallel to the law of assumption. Whatever you assume to be true will manifest as your physical reality. The feeling is the secret. You do not manifest what you want, you manifest what you are. So, to change your reality, you must successfully project the internal feeling of already having your desire. You need to live in the end. Instead of hoping to get a promotion or a beautiful home in the future, you mentally occupy the state of the person who already has it right now. Your inner conversations have to align. Your mind is constantly playing a script. The law of assumption requires you to change your mental dialogue to match your desired reality. Assuming that your success is already done, assuming the feeling of your wish fulfills your reality. Instead of waiting for a promotion to feel successful, you adopt the mindset of someone worthy of high level responsibilities. You might mentally rehearse presenting a brilliant project or practice daily affirmations like, I am highly respected and valued at my company. In relationships, instead of assuming you will face rejection, you operate from the core belief that you are deeply loved and appreciated. You visualize yourself already in a healthy, thriving relationship and act with the confidence of someone who has already found it. When it comes to wealth and finance, to shift from a scarcity mindset to an absolute abundant one, you replace negative self talk with I am statements. For example, you assume the identity of a successful entrepreneur by using mantras like I am worthy of financial freedom. Abundance flows easily to me. I am a money magnet. You can even rewire it in your favor when someone talks badly about you. So you can say, every time someone speaks poorly of me, money gets into my account. Money finds me. I am a powerful magnet for wealth and luxury. I am deeply loved and chosen every single day. Everything always works out for me. I am the sole creator of my reality. I am completely secure, confident, and whole within myself. What I desire is already mine, looking for me. I don't chase, I attract. My body is perfectly healthy, strong, and full of vitality. I am filled with peace, mental clarity, and joy, and every cell in my body is vibrant and thriving. Here's a final idea that many people have probably come across. It's a very interesting experiment involving water crystals, referred to as the water experiment, which is a concept that traces back to the work of a Japanese researcher in the 1990s, Dr. Imasaru Emoto. His subjective demonstrations involved exposing water to spoken words, emotions, and music, then freezing it to examine the resulting ice crystals. The goal was to visualize whether love and hate alter molecular structures. Emoto's observations claimed that water exposed to positive, loving words or intentions formed beautiful, symmetrical, snowflake like geometries. In contrast, water exposed to aggressive or hateful phrases resulted in chaotic, distorted, and broken crystal structures when frozen. While this experiment is a popular demonstration to teach us about kindness and the power of words, it is important to note that they are generally categorized as pseudoscience by the broader scientific community. Whether you see those demonstrations as scientific evidence, symbolic illustrations, or not, some people believe that the differences that appeared afterward point toward the influence of intention and language. So have I. I think that this invites a beautiful question. If we're willing to believe that our words might affect water, imagine what years of speaking harshly to a living human heart might do, especially when that heart is your own. For next week, don't try to change your entire life. Just notice your language. Every time you catch yourself saying, I can't, I always, I never, pause. Ask yourself, is this a fact? Or is this a story I've repeated so many times that it feels like one? Because every identity begins as a sentence. Thank you for stepping behind the curtain with me today. If this conversation resonated with you, share it with someone who's learning to trust the process of becoming. Until next time, keep questioning your patterns, keep embracing the truth, and keep listening to the soul beneath it all.